All right, here we go. We are live. So, but I think we're good. How are you, Shuma?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. Thank you. So today we don't have any guests, but we thought it was important for people to know how they can save time and money when investing in the US. And there's three things that we're gonna really focus on. Okay. I hope you can still hear me. I'm having okay. I think I'm still live. So why don't we start with the first one? I think the first one is really the timeline, right, Shuma?
Yes, the first one is definitely the timeline. The more clear of a timeline that you have, the better the whole process is going to be, and the less money you're going to spend because you have a clear set time that takes into consideration your aspiration plus realistic the realistic estimation that the process takes, right? That should be communicated to you by the experts that would tell you each step and how long it takes. And based on that, you have a clear estimation. We have a lot of people who tell us we want to be in the US, for example, by spring, and then sometimes we discuss it with them and see if it's realistic or not, and if it is, then we work towards that goal. If it's not, then we set another date that is pushed a little bit forward, taking into consideration all the elements that will be pushing that date forward. So yes, I do agree.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times when you look at the timeline of when you're investing, it's not necessarily when you need to start the process of the visa. A lot of our clients actually start the process when they're already in the US, and
Oh
especially
yes.
because they're Canadian. So if you want to actually like move to the US because you're tired of the cold and you just want more freedoms and you're just done with it, you can just pack up and go. And then really you can start the process when you're in the US. Obviously, you definitely want to talk to us before you do that. Don't just take off and not not have a plan. But it's important to realize that the timeline is not just a timeline when it comes to investing in the US and when you want to hit certain benchmarks, I would say, but it's also when you want to start the process of moving to the US, buying the business in the US. And obviously things can happen, but having a timeline of say like, January 10th is when we want to move. We want to start the process January 20th. Once we're there, once we see where we want to settle down. We want to find the business by, we usually say about 3 months after we start the process. So then that would put you maybe March or April. So giving yourself some leeway, it doesn't have to be exact dates. You can have specific dates, but if you don't want to, you can use, kind of like general ideas instead of just saying that you're going to do it someday. Like if you don't have a deadline, we all know what could happen. Obviously, you're not going to get started. So that's really the first one. It's going to save you time because you're not going to just be thinking about doing it. And it's going to save you money because you're going to be saving for this and investing in a business. So that's why that's number one, to really focus a lot on the timeline. Okay.
Yeah. I
Number
feel like
two. Yeah, go
before I move
ahead.
to number two, I just want to say that I feel like having a clear timeline also makes it clearer for you in terms of accomplishing the things that you need to accomplish because it's a very hands-on process. So
Yeah.
when you have a timeline in place, then you know exactly what you need to do and by when. Otherwise, if you don't, then it stays a little bit in the air, and then some things could be done, some things could be left out or forgotten because it's not going to be very organized and well structured. Some things could still be relevant, some things could change, and
Yeah.
we've seen it in the past year. A lot of things have changed when it comes to the process for certain types of visas. So it's definitely something that impacts your involvement and the accomplishment of all the steps that are within that process.
Yeah, totally agree. And also, I'll add to that. There's certain things that happen at a specific time, like the kids starting school and everything like that. So you definitely want to take that into consideration. Maybe some holidays, like if you want to, you know, move by Christmas time, take into account that a lot of businesses are closed on Christmas, and people like to take off 2 weeks out of the year for no reason. It just happens to be like that. So taking all of those things into consideration are also very important. Someone saying change is constant. Indeed, yes, I totally agree with that. So let's go into number two. And as you know, we're actually offering free consults. And this is one of the topics that sometimes people don't want to answer, but we need to know. And the reason for that is that depending on this particular item, it's going to open up a lot of doors for you, or it's going to, we're going to be honest and tell you if it's possible or not for you to make the move.
Yes.
And that really talks about the budget. And when we talk to our clients, they have properties and investments in a lot of different areas, not just real estate. And they have the ability to liquidate some of those assets that they have. But sometimes you might not need to. Sometimes you might. So specifically when it comes to whenever, and we're just going to tell you, we don't really work with anybody who doesn't have less than 100,000, just because there's nothing set in stone. And Lauren doesn't like to say that there's a specific or a minimum investment, but we just really don't like to work with people that are not going to invest at least that minimum when it comes to the business or the investment, because we've seen that that's really the number that really is going to give you a really good story when it comes to the business plan. So if you have a budget, it's really going to help to be able you're going to save money because you're going to know exactly how much you need, and you're not going to just spend whatever amount of money you want to spend. You're going to save money in a way that is going to be beneficial for your specific situation. And if you want to designate, after you do the research and you think that 100,000 is not for you, then you might need to do some savings and save a little bit more. Or you might want to liquidate some of the things that you have so that you can have enough to invest. And if you want to invest more, I mean, it's going to help you. It's not going to hurt you. But defining that is really going to help. And I think, Shima, you have some other points that you wanted to bring up about the budget.
Yes, indeed. So as Miri said, one of the things that we always promise our clients is that we never sugarcoat anything. So when budget is not enough to achieve the goal that you share with us, we do say that to our clients directly, and then we give them advice on how to maybe acquire more liquidity and make sure that we reach that budget goal, because it can make or break your projects. And as you mentioned, Miri, coming into this, you need to have a clear knowledge of your budget and where it is, because some of the clients, and we did encounter that, they could have some money that is available immediately in the bank, and then also a property somewhere that they are trying to sell at the moment. So bear in mind that this can impact your timeline, which is the first thing that we talked about. So when you want to start the project of investing and immigrating to the US, you need to take into consideration that as well. If you have money, is it all available right now? Or is it scattered in property or in some form of investment somewhere? And then you will need some time to make it available. So all of these are things that we try to discuss with our clients, because they play a huge, huge, huge role in the timeline, as well as the possibility or not of accomplishing that project that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, 100%. And something else that is important about the budget is that there are two different aspects of where the money is going
Yes.
to. Number one, the money is going to the investment, right? Because you're either gonna find a business or find a franchise or find an existing business, whatever it is. But it's also gonna have to be, also gonna have to find a budget to be able to work with professionals like people like Lauren Cohen, Investing Across Borders, and me and Shma. So you really want to define where your money is going to be headed. If you have, say, 150,000, maybe allocate specific amounts to the investment and specific amounts to working with someone, because you're gonna need some help. And if you just have 100,000 and you can't go over, then you might need to be doing a little bit more savings, or get a loan from someone or somewhere, so that you can have enough to really be able to invest. So it's those two things: the budget for the investment and the budget for the professionals, so that you can find something that's going to fit your needs, right?
Yes, a lot of people actually sometimes in our calls, in our consultations, they come in with an idea of a budget that in their head, all they thought of is, okay, I have this much money to invest in the business. Okay, but what about the tax expert? What about the entities and their filings, that need to be put together? What about the business plan that needs to also be drafted, etc.? So there are a lot of elements that sometimes people don't know about, or they just don't take into consideration when calculating their true budget, because
Yeah,
that all of this needs to be taken into consideration at the end of the day. And as you mentioned, if they didn't, they need to think about where to get more in order to accommodate as well these elements in addition.
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So let's move on to the last one, and that's selecting the experts. And there's a lot of different ways for you to move forward with your achieving your American dream. We
Hmm.
get that. But just take into account that you're gonna have to really find a lot of different professionals, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So whenever our clients work with us, the beauty is that we connect you to everybody that you need to meet, and you don't need to open up the Google and search for specific people that you've never even heard of, and you don't even know if they're real.
Hmm.
So that's why working with us is such a great thing to do. But let's talk about some of the people that will connect you to. So one of them is the asset protection team and the tax experts, because we don't plan to pretend that we are tax experts in any means by any means, and we definitely recommend that you speak with them at some point, because it's important for you to not get double taxed, especially when if you're Canadian. We've seen a lot of people who think that you just need to create an LLC in the US and that's it, and you need to really check with a tax advisor who specializes in not just US law but also Canadian law and understands all of the components that come up with that. So that's just one example. I know,
Yeah.
Shema, you have a whole list and you wanted to mention a lot of more people.
Yes, because coincidentally, we do talk to sometimes, and this is very important to take into consideration. It's two different approaches and philosophies, and of course, ultimately, it is your decision at the end of the day, depending on your knowledge of the market and your network. You will go with one or the other, but one of them involves a lot of legwork and a lot of research, because you have to find, as Miri mentioned, tax experts who are going to guide you on your entity structure and who are going to help you file for those entities to be created. And then you need a team to build the business plan and write it for you. And then you need someone who will be a business broker, for example, or a real estate broker, depending on the situation that you would like to invest in. And then you need somebody to help you vet those, right? And then you will need a team to help you put all of this together and then prepare your visa petition. And if you know the appropriate teams and you already have worked with teams like that, then by all means, that could be a way to go. But the other approach that a lot of people are now adopting as well is the one-stop shop option, which is what we offer, and that is everything in one place. And you will not have to go do anything yourself. Everything is vetted. Everything is recommended through us, even the businesses and even a real estate network in case you need to buy property in the US. All of that goes through us and is vetted from us. And Lauren is a realtor as well, so that's also important to note because we forget to say that a lot, you know. So
Yeah,
and it allows you also to save money at the end of the day, because then you will not fall in those little like traps and those little mistakes where you hire the wrong person and it's like, oh, I need to hire somebody else because this person didn't do a great job, you know. So
yeah,
you will not have that problem, right? And you also will not have the job to follow up with these parties and make sure that they accomplish the things that you are expecting them to accomplish, because that is all being done by us, or because we're going to be managing your project as account managers, you know. So we make sure that all of it is done within the timeline that you discussed with us in the beginning, right? So to make sure that we make everything happen by the time that you envision to be in the US and to have your business up and running, etc. So yeah,
yeah.
that's definitely something to take into consideration as
Yeah,
well.
and especially, a lot of people when we get on these calls, they don't even think about potential things that could come up later on in the process.
Yes.
So, like
I know.
something that happened in one of our calls yesterday, somebody had already picked a franchise,
Mm,
and they didn't know that they actually it would be beneficial for them to hire a franchise lawyer. And that's something that's why, when you work with us, we don't pretend to know everything, but we will connect you to the people who we think are the best at it, and we'll be able to advise and guide you along the way. And our franchise lawyer actually reviews all of our clients for FDDs, the franchise disclosure documents, and he's able to tell you if there's some red flags, because we've had issues with other franchises that after the review of the FDD, there's some things that come up, and some things that we just advise the client not to move forward with what we found out, because of this lawyer who is amazing at what he does. And he's strictly a franchise lawyer, and he's actually put together some of the FDDs himself, but not all of them, obviously. So that's why it's important for somebody like him to review that. And that's
Mhm.
just one example of
Yeah.
some of the things that you might want to take into account. And another thing that could happen is, I can't tell you how many times we've had people who come to us and they say, I started to work with this lawyer or this immigration lawyer, but I don't know anything about the business, because they just said, go find the business and we'll take care of the visa for you.
Yeah.
Whereas Lauren, she's very business minded, and it's very different than you have a lawyer who knows about business than being business minded, because she thinks a lot about the business and the visa. So how is the business going to qualify for the visa?
Hmm.
And that's why she's so
Hmm.
creative, because she thinks about those two
Yes.
things. I mean, she's a realtor,
Indeed.
a franchise broker, obviously a lawyer as well. So she knows a lot about different things, but it's also the business side of things that
Hmm.
is so important. And also people who might have hired a lawyer from before, and all of a sudden that lawyer just left them stranded. And that's horrible. That's really, really sad that some
Yep.
lawyers actually do that,
Yep.
unfortunately, in this industry. So you know that when you work with us, if something weird happens, we are actually by your side, and we're going to help, and we're not just going to leave you. So
Hmm.
I think those things are also very important to mention,
Hmm.
that we're kind of like in your back pocket, and we're able to aid and to guide along the process, and things that you didn't think about, might come up. So let's just review real quick, Shama, if that's okay.
Yes.
So number one was the timeline. You want to
Yes,
take
indeed.
into account some dates, general ideas of where you want to make the move, because if you don't set a date, nothing's going to happen. Number
Definitely.
two is, we talked about the budget. We talked about how you need, what we like to say, about $100,000. Again, this is not said anywhere, but we definitely encourage, and we don't take
Recommend.
clients, yes, to invest 100,000 or more in the business. We also have to take into account the budget for the legal stuff and the professionals they're going to be hiring, as well as the business. And then the last thing that we said is making sure that you select the experts the right way. And we're not saying that everybody should work with us. I mean, you'll be a fool not to, but we get it. Because we offer that all in one approach to be able to make sure that you take care of everything else that might come into play. Like things
Hmm.
that we've mentioned, people who have hired other immigration firms who have no idea about business, and unfortunately they don't select a good business that they're actually going to make money off, or actually live off of the visa. Other lawyers who might not have your best interest at heart, and what
Hmm.
happens is that they take forever, they don't get back to you, they don't answer.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, and
and
I think also take one thing to note is that our if you take as we explained earlier, like the approach of having multiple parties handling your work, then for example, if a person is you hired if you hired a lawyer or a team to write down your business plan, then their goal is to just write that business plan and hand it over to you, right?
mhm,
Whereas for us, our goal is the success of your project. So the whole success of everything, and ultimately getting your visa and having your business on hand, and everything is ready for you. That is our goal. It is not writing the business plan because it's just a
right,
small fraction of it. So it's very,
exactly.
very different.
Yeah, so having that in mind is also very important. So those three things are super important: timeline, budget, and the experts. That's really what's going to get you, and that's going to save you time, a lot of time. We've had applications done within 4 months, 4 to 6 months,
Yes.
whereas it could take up to a year, maybe more. It's going to save you money, because you're not going to spend money where you don't need to spend money, and it's going to, time is money. So if you do it in a short amount of time, you're going to be in the US pretty soon, as opposed to not doing it. So I think that's it for us. Shma, do you want to share anything else, or?
No, I think that was it. That was what we wanted to cover.
Awesome. So we do have a masterclass happening next week. It's happening on the 17th. Lauren will be presenting some really, really very, very important stuff. Don't want to miss that. We will be sending the link, but if anybody wants to join, is investing across borders / join dash the dash new dash masterclass. And one of our team members is going to put the link in our wherever you're watching this, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or whatever. And I think that's it. We'll see you in, maybe it's going to be, well, the following week is Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving. And then we'll be back on December 1st. Thank you for putting the link for the masterclass next week. And if you we'll be seeing you on December 1st, we'll probably have an expert guest by then. But if not, you'll be seeing us. Maybe Lauren will make an appearance. Who knows? But it's approaching the new year. The winter is coming. So there's a lot of things happening. And it's exciting. It's an exciting time because this is the winter in Florida. I can't begin to tell you. We had Hurricane Nicole, Tropical Storm Nicole, and it's super sunny outside now. It's just
Oh,
like it didn't
wow.
even happen. It's
Wow.
it's crazy. And here in South Florida, obviously we pray and we hope that everybody's safe from the storm. But yeah, that's what you get from living in Florida. Right after, not even 24 hours after a tropical storm, you're already having the
The sun.
sunshine and you're able to go outside and enjoy. So it's always beautiful here. So thank you so much for watching the Investing Across Borders show. We will see you next time. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.